I've got 7 o'clock, so we can call the
Yeah,
meeting
right,
to
and
order.
next year we don't need it.
For the agenda tonight, we did call to order. We would have handled reserve fund transfers if there were any, and there are none. We're going to consider the special town meeting warrant articles, and we're going to try and get through the whole thing tonight. Got several sets of meeting minutes, old, new business, public access, and adjournment. And so with that, we'll jump right into the special town meeting warrant. And since I think water and sewer is going to go fairly quickly with the explanations we're going to get, we can just start with that. And the first one is Article 52, which deals with the transfer of $152,000 to sewer maintenance account. And
I'll defer to
just,
Robin first if you want.
and just for people's way, the summary kind of changed today, so that's one of the things that changed in today's
Version.
last version. Well, you haven't seen the last version, so it's more detailed, so. Okay, sorry, Heather. Go ahead.
It's okay. I can defer to Robin if she wants to say anything first. I don't, or I can go. It doesn't matter. She's muted.
We can't hear you.
You're muted.
Yeah, she's unmuted now.
She unmuted.
What-
All right,
what?
I'll go ahead and go. I think that's what she was going to say anyways, so. So obviously, I don't know how much of you have been following. A couple months ago, we did go back to the selectmen because at the time when we did budgeting last year, we did realize that the cost of these E1 pumps are going up considerably. So we budgeted for like 50 pumps in the budget. And what has happened is obviously we go through 9 to 10 pumps a month. And we can, at any one time, given a brownout, we've lost 12 pumps in one night. So obviously, we like to keep 10 of them on hand just in case that they short out. What we had gone to the selectmen to discuss was potentially stopping, trying to make a phasing out, doing the service of just replacing all the pumps. We are still discussing it with them, but some of the initial feedback was that they had some very big concerns of what the promises were made at the time when the pumps were installed, which we understand. But we, had to make some budgetary decisions early on. We didn't know which way it was going to go. Had started having the conversations. Now we're at the point where we need additional funding to cover us for the rest of the year. So that is what we're asking for in this. It's 55 pumps. They are $2,743 each. So if we have to replace another 55, it comes just under $152,000.
And one thing that's changed us from maybe the version you've seen and some other ones is in the actual warrant language, we've taken out the actual number of pumps. So it just says for the purpose of purchasing of the E1 pumps, not a specific number, because if the price goes up or if the price comes down, you may be able to buy more or less.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. We're estimating that it's going to be, we have to go based on what we've had historically. Historically, we've done 100 to 110 a year in the past, so that's what the numbers are based on, and it's kind of held true this year. What we have to realize is these pumps now in different parts are over 20 years old. And a lot of them have already been maintained and changed out because we've looked back at the history of it. We've kind of looked at how many repairs did we do, and now we're basically being told by the manufacturer that on our old pumps, some of the original ones or the ones we've already repaired, we can't repair them anymore. They're not supporting the repairs on that, and the cost to get the parts to do those repairs is almost as much as a pump. So if we're spending more time doing the repairs than just switching out, we basically gone to switching out. If any of our new ones fail, obviously we get the pumps to replace those. And we're not replacing the whole unit. If you've seen these, there's a plastic unit and there's control panels, which we're going to have to start worrying about in the future too. The control panels are starting to fail also. It is 20-year-old equipment, and a lot of them it's outside and it's in sewerage. So if you've heard me talk, sewer is always the great equalizer. It's very corrosive, so.
okay. Any other questions for?
How many pumps is that again? How many are we gonna replace?
How many have we replaced?
Or how many for this amount of money?
55.
Okay.
Which is will get us through to the end of the year and have our 10 to start with in the beginning.
Based on how old they are, the current one, you say there's a lot in stock or in use that are old, based on history, will next year, this 55, when we are a
So-
little more define how many we're gonna need, or is it gonna be 60 next year, or hopefully,
It's-
with their history, to like 10?
No, I think unfortunately, we are probably projecting that for the next year's coming, we're looking at 100 a year. We have just under 600 pumps in the system from our best last count, and about 100 of them have already been changed out. So eventually, should be getting back around so that we have, but you're looking at another 5 years.
Okay, but I would say it will be more predictable then, because this is like unexpected or unpredictable, but we could make it more predictable.
Well, we're hoping to make it more predictable. Sometimes things can't be predicted with these, like the times that if we have a brownout where people don't realize that a phase is dropped or there's, we've had 10 pumps go just because of that.
And a supply, we have like, go out for 3 quotes, or is it one supplier?
There's one
sole source?
supplier for this, it's
No,
SoSource.
That's it, huh?
Yep.
Wow.
When they went with the E1 system back 20 years ago, they knew that was what they were getting into.
Is there any way when we phase out, put new ones in, that we look at in multiple suppliers, that we can get, not be sole sourced to one supplier forever? Like, we get 55 of other pumps?
Well,
Get
then you would have to
multiple suppliers?
change out the whole unit, which it would be like more like $5,000, 10,000 plus construction cost.
Okay.
I will say that one thing that internally we're discussing is that when a new system goes on, I think that we shouldn't be taking over the operation of it unless it's something that we're taking out a loan for. But like in subdivisions and things of that nature, if they really need E1s, if you're choosing to put an E1 in yourself, then it's your maintenance, not ours. And that should go in our bylaws
Cool, good.
so that we're not encouraging these systems going forward.
Makes sense.
They were needed where they were placed. I'm not going to say that. Around the lakes, there really was no other alternative, but we have some places that we put them where there was alternatives, where they are.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so can I have a motion that would approve the article as written? Larry?
Second.
Jim? Okay. So no other comments, all those in favor? So Lee, you're the only person I can't see, thank you, 6. 6-0. All right, so the next one is Article 53, another sewer reserve fund transfer. Trying to think if anything changed with this one. Just some decimal places and commas and stuff like that. Otherwise, the explanation is pretty much the same. So this is 80,000, so.
Yep. So, as you guys are probably very, very aware, we've had 2 very large rainstorms in the span of the last 3 months. Once when we first put this together, we already knew we had a large pumping expense that we needed to cover. The sewer system from Route 20 pump station to the plant, the pipeline that goes in between there is undersized. So the pumps could actually pump more, but the pipe cannot take any more flow than it actually is. And to prevent the system from overflowing and flowing into the river, which would be a major environmental problem, we have had to use pumper trucks to pump. So we pump out of the tank, keep pumping, and then truck it over to the plant. This has now happened twice in 1 year. And if you talk to Shane, as I do every day, it has only happened to him twice in the last 15 years that he's worked here. So unfortunately, this wet weather that we've been having and our high rainfall amounts has really triggered some pretty not normal catastrophic expenses that we couldn't really budget for. In addition, we've had some other smaller expenses, and given that we are already basically only at halfway through the year, we've almost already spent the $75,000 that was budgeted. So we're looking to make sure that we have enough money in case we have another one of these storms, because we definitely seem to be in this wet, rainy period. You know, I joke that I'm going to build myself an ark, but, you know, we can't be without money through the rest of the year and not have that ability to still be able to do that and make sure that we're protecting the resources and protecting ourselves from any type of overflow or discharge. In addition, like, it does seem that every time we turn around, again, the plant is now starting to age. He just came to me today and said, I need to buy a skimmer pump. And he gave me one quote, that was $7,000. That wasn't in our budget anywhere. So that is part of the money that we would use in these capital reserve to replace those things, those items that unexpectedly break. They are replacing and doing regularly scheduled maintenance and regularly scheduled replacements, and that's in our budgets, but we can't do it from every single item that we really don't expect to fail. But they're critical to operating the plant. So we, in addition, another one of the big costs that came out of that, the 75 that was already budgeted, is we went out to bid for painting of the clarifiers. That was one of the items, the painting coatings was an item that we had from a couple years back. We went out to bid. It had some cost in it. We really need to get this clarifier back up and running. It's been down for a couple years, and it's causing some operational issues in the plant. So we went out to bid. We got our bid prices back. They were about $30,000 higher than what we had in our remaining funds for that article. So we're using some of that money to cover the rest of that cost so we can get that project up and running. So we've had some higher than, again, that's why we have these reserve costs in case we have these capital prices that come in higher than we expect. And some really strange conditions that have happened this year. I know Barbara will back me up and say that when I came in, I thought 75 is not enough in our reserve fund. And last year we looked at trying to increase it, but it made the rates go up extremely high. So we backed it back down to 25, but here again, we probably would have still been asking for more money. We will be looking to try to get that up to 100 this year and keep it there, but costs are high. We have a lot of expenses coming up in the sewer.
Any follow-up questions? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the article as written. Larry and Jim. All right. Any other comments? All those in favor? Thank you. 6-0. So Robin, I don't know if you can hear us. One of the things I just like to make sure one of the numbers that were given to us, we're supposed to have that meeting that didn't happen in the fall about the financial policies and different things, is how the town's going to look at increasing the sewer fund balance. After all this stuff, when you saw the spreadsheets, we're down to $245,000 as a balance. That is not acceptable. So just put that on your agenda items for that meeting, please. Okay, we still can't hear you, just so you know. Nope.
We could hear Barbara when she talked.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Actually, so Barbara, do you want to just try and make sure we can still hear you?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. All right. So great. Let me just make the note here in this. And then the last one is Article 54, which is the Water Reserve Fund balance transfer.
So this one, the background on this one is we went out to bid right before town meeting last year for the filter media replacement at the IRP, for the iron filter media replacement. Those prices came in considerably higher than what we had money for. I think it was, the original appropriation was $481,000. It was $30,000 for the engineering, so we were down to $451, and the prices came in, depending on the alternates, at $500,000 to $550,000. So obviously, we didn't have enough money, so we didn't award the bid, and we said we'd have to come back to a special town meeting and put it back out to bid. So we are expecting costs to probably even have gone up a little bit more, because it seems like everything is. So we've basically put we're going to have rebidding costs, which will be less than $5,000, and then we put about 5% above what the bid prices with the alternate was. And we'll continue to bid it the same way, and I guess the good news there is if it comes in too high, we actually have that little buffer of that alternate also. The alternate was about, depending on which bid you looked at, $50,000. So that is an additional little bit of budget. But we do need the piece of equipment that's in the alternate. It happens to be the dehumidifier for the plant, which means, and I understand that we're hoping to have you all down to the plant and actually see some of this equipment. And you'll see what is happening there is everything is starting to rust because the humidity in that building is so high, because the unit is not functioning. So it's something we have to look at.
What's the process with the bidding? I mean, you go out for bid in June, you get bids and whatever the amount is, and usually if you get 3 or 4, whatever the policy is or process,
So-
and somebody wins, you say, here, you got the contract at this price, thank you very much, we're gonna start here, and you put in the contract, this is the price. So we did it, and all of a sudden, now we get these
So
bids,
when-
we accept it, now they're
When
gonna-
we do big projects like this, we don't go out we can't go out for three prices until we actually do all the engineering for it. So what we do is we do an opinion of probable cost. We go to our engineers that we work with and we ask them, hey, we need to do this. And they say, a year ahead of time, we think right now, we're asking for that cost, right? They say that, and they had done a cost, they had included a 10% contingency, and that was that's where we got that number. When we went out to bid a year and a half later, prices had gone up that much. So it's a little different, like, it's not like buying a car, because this isn't an off-the-shelf item. This is a major project to go out with contractors and put all the details that you want in your bid. So when we get prices to put in our articles, they're nothing that we can hold anybody to. They are estimates of what we think we're going to need. And until we actually do the formal bidding, which is a very formal process, it's not just 3 quotes. You got to look at it. We get probable costs, and then we have a lot of things that happened in the last year. A lot of it to do with, there's a lot of money out there right now in different grants and different things with the Rebuild America money, and a lot of these contractors, their prices have gone up because they have a lot of work. So there's not that much they're not hungry for work right now either. I had a memo back from there, and I can provide it. Everybody saw their costs jump more than 25% on a lot of their bidded projects. There were some projects that would come in cheaper because there might be a smaller contract, but this is kind of more specialized work. So if they're busy putting in new plants somewhere else, they're not worrying about changing out our filters.
Star Wars.
The dog ears popping up.
So who is caller 1?
That's me.
Oh, okay. It's Robert.
So I'll look at you through my computer and I'll talk to you through my phone.
Okay.
The year and a half, though, where does that come into play? We bid it in June 23rd of the meeting.
Put the budgets together.
When you go to the meeting and you say, we're gonna spend so-and-so at that meeting,
we've already
you got
put that-
a year ago pricing?
Well, the bidding, by the time we do the engineering, because we get the award in June, we did the engineering, we went out to bid in the spring, and that's how far off we are.
I'm just going to make one comment there. If you remember, one of the arguments we had against moving the town meeting day was that this allows us to get these type of quotes closer to the end of the fiscal year. So the next fiscal year, when we go out to bid, our numbers are way more accurate than they are when we have to get the quote in January or December,
Yeah.
6 or 7 months earlier.
Yeah.
So that's all part
You
and parcel.
got to remember, when we start putting articles together, we're putting them together basically right now, already for town meeting. I already asked my engineers for the quotes for things that I need, because I have to pick and choose now of what I need, or what we're going to go forward with, because,
You put it now, realizing what happened, or?
I didn't.
It's not your fault.
So honestly,
You put an
I was,
inflationary factor on there, like now you're gonna say what we're getting, we know, now inflation's slowing down, of course, last year was
Right.
a bit higher, obviously. But do you put an inflationary factor in there when you go to town meeting saying?
oh yeah, there's going to be 25% contingency factors on everything, because
Wow,
it has to be.
25%? Wow.
They're not, especially on our big projects like this, which may mean that they're that much more inflated. And you got to realize, you know, our engineers are doing the same thing because they are worried about what's going on, because they don't want to look bad. They, you know, this makes them look bad. I will say, I wasn't here when this was put together. I came in right after. I was here when went to town meeting with it, but I didn't even know the scope or the size of the project. Not that it might have made any difference, because this was the engineer's estimate, right? You know, this is where they came from. That's what they thought. I would have been like, okay, yep, you're the ones bidding these things out more often than I am, but,
It's probably accurate at the time, right?
right, at the time, it was probably
But you
accurate.
also got you got engineers, but the engineers went out for bid, so it wasn't the engineer saying, I think this is worth $5.
Right.
You actually went to a company and they said
Correct.
it is worth $5.
Well, we can't go to the companies and ask them to price it, because that's actually,
That's not allowed.
that's not allowed. We can only estimate based on other projects. So I can't go to
Well,
the,
for bid, okay.
That's part of the bidding process. That's,
Wow.
call your state rep.
Yeah.
If you got a problem with it. That's the way it works.
Heather, would you conclude that the private sector has a lot more flexibility
Absolutely.
than the public sector?
absolutely, 100%.
Not only two different sets of rules, it's like baseball and hockey. They are fundamentally different, and I think it's necessary for all of us to keep that in mind.
All right, so we get past the bidding process, right? And we put the whole explanation in there, the summary box changed with all the details, so that's in there now. So do I have a motion to approve this article, Larry and Jim? We'll go with that, that works out very well. All right, any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And I was going to bring this up, 6-0, I was going to bring this up in new business, but Heather's already let it leak. We're going to be looking for dates from everyone in February to try and organize a tour for the Finance Committee of the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant, so we can see what's going on down there, and you can actually put your eyeballs on it. And in my experience, it makes a huge difference when you can actually see what they're talking about. So we'll take that up later.
I think that's a tremendous, I highly recommend that to anybody who can do it.
Just one last question. Who's Jay? We know C is Robin, so who's dialed in as Jay?
That's probably Jeremy. He popped on probably to figure out what my sound problem is.
Okay.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of a trouble hearing you guys, so I asked Jeremy to log in so that he could try to figure it out for us.
Perfect. All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Okay. So Annie and her army.
Brought everyone tonight. I guess, do we all want to move up? We can come up as there's questions.
Yeah.
Come on up now.
So this is
Fun.
Article 49, the ADA accessibility for 60 Cedar Street.
Yes.
So if I could just jump in before Annie, just real quick before Annie talks. This is something, Annie's been working on this for a while, and I just want to emphasize, this was really sort of surprising that our critical recreation area is not ADA accessible. And so Annie's been working on this. We've looked at different options. This is a little bit scaled down because there's some questions on sidewalks and whatnot. But we really just want to emphasize how passionately we feel about this one, because our rec facility really is not accessible, and not just from an extreme sense, but just from a very common interactive and user friendliness for anybody who has a physical handicap. So I'll turn it over to Annie. She's done great work on getting this ready.
Thank you. Yes, this project's been very important to us. We previously looked at kind of upgrading the rec area as a whole to see how we can utilize the facility, the whole property. There was a lot of different discussions on how we would do the roadway, the sidewalks, and that project got very expensive very quick. So what we're presenting to you tonight is the most focused version of the project. You could potentially look at it as phase one. It would not be dependent on any future phases coming, which would be an improvement to the property, but we are addressing the ADA accessibility for the existing rec area. So what's included in it is only the addition of 2 handicap parking spots, but that's going to go directly to the accessible walkways that can get you to the pavilion, the bathrooms, the playground, and all the way to the waterfront. A large part of this project is upgrading the playground to ADA standards. The The playground flooring itself is the rubber chips. Those have been outdated for accessibility standards for a number of years. It's recommended now to go to the poured-in-place flooring, which is what you see at Burgess, and just about every other playground has converted now. It also includes the addition of an inclusive amenity into the playground. So that is called the let me make sure I say it right.
It's called the We Go Round.
We Go Round. It is an inclusive amenity. We met with the landscape designers, of course, but for the playground designers, we met with the original company who designed this and installed it from the beginning to see what can we add that is most beneficial. And we were actually educated a lot that the conversations have gone from making stuff just accessible to also inclusive. So this is designed by Landscape Structures, and it's making it so you are able to interact, able-bodied or someone who's handicapped. You're sharing the amenity together. You're interacting with one another rather than it just being an item for someone who has those needs. So sometimes we originally were looking at bringing in the swings where you can bring a wheelchair in there and shut either side and someone can use it, which would be an improvement, but it was very nice to have these conversations and really educate us in the rec committee a lot on taking it one step further to something that you're actually able to use with your peers. So the We Go Round would be added into the playground. The playground itself would be upgraded to the poured-in-place flooring. There is accessible pathways, so getting you to that, getting you to the waterfront. Some of the other site improvements, we're moving the shed and the porta potties away from the stream, which connects you into the cove for Cedar Lake right there. So those are being brought up closer to the pavilion. And then adding in the accessible, the 2 handicap parking spots. Yeah, so I wasn't sure. I have the printed plans. I wasn't sure if you wanted to screen share or anything to the plan that was emailed.
Screen share from over there, and there's nothing there. So if you have something
Sure.
you want to share, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
let me bring these out so you are able to have a visual.
I've sent everything that was provided related to this to everyone, so they should have seen it already, but it'd be good just to
Yeah.
know what document you're referring to.
Let's see. Is it best if I spread it here? Would you like it on your side? How can
Kind
we
of hold it up,
hold it
because
up?
everyone should have it, just so you know which document you're referring to.
So this
Okay,
is
yeah,
our
that's-
colored rendering.
Yep.
And it shows you everything here. So our parking spots over here, an adjustment, the dumpster, I'm not sure if I mentioned that. We're able to move that in away from the stream there and also able to enclose it, which is going to help with our dumping problem.
Okay.
Over here, you see the shed has been moved up. We have, let's see, this is our erosion control is added in down here at the bottom. Right now, we don't have any version of control. Moving over to the playground, you can see our accessible pathways here. One of the biggest complaints and concerns I get from, I would say, a weekly call from our playground users and then our residents who live near the lake is the concern of the way the current rubber chips are able to wash right out under the fencing. We'll have DPW come and help us, and we're actually shoveling the chips back in with how much they're washed out. So that is just another environmental concern that we would be able to clean up. This project also includes updating the fencing around the whole parameter. If you have been there in the past couple years, it's held up for the amount of use it receives, but the last 2 years, the fence is it's fully fallen apart. We're holding it together with zip ties. It is time for a facelift. But this project is as focused as we can get it to approach the needs. This is a public park. We host our summer program. Last year it was just over 270 registrations. We are serving a large part of the community, but it's very tough to advertise this as a program somewhere you can bring your children, whether you're using it for public use or you're participating in our program. It's very tough to advertise it because it's not accessible.
Now, off the gray sidewalk that you have going around the back, you have that brown, or at least to my, it looks brown, that's the handicap, like, ramp to get down to the water?
So it can pull back off season, but at the time it has the grip to, have it as an ADA compliant surface.
Oh, okay.
So it can be rolled back at the end. Rolls back up and they get around it. Yep.
So where would that be stored then in the off-season?
I would really hope not the new recreation shed.
I mean, I would
I don't
imagine it's a
wanna
pretty
offer it as
big,
an option.
it's probably pretty big when it's rolled up to store,
Yeah.
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 Is there any concern of theft if it's that easy to roll up?
No, they're heavy, very heavy.
Yeah.
No, no, they're fine.
Question on this. The playground area, has it been expanded to accommodate the new equipment? Is that bigger than it currently exists?
Yeah, you see those jog outs on each
I
side?
say, because we're going to add equipment, so we need more room.
Yes, so we had a representative from Emmy O'Brien's, who designed it originally, come and make sure all of our, the safety distances from every angle, so we reviewed that. What was important to me was expanding it to fit the equipment, but also not taking away from the grass area, because that's where we have all of our activities for the summer program. And it was actually a very pleasant surprise to see how easily it fits in.
I would like to go back to my question though, because this is serious, because one of the things that have been pointed out to me is like the field down at Turner's Field still has the baseball bases on it. And it's, no one's playing baseball and we got 12 inches of snow coming. We're not, that is gonna be an expensive piece of equipment if it gets ruined. So where is it gonna be stored in the off-season?
Heather's not here, or I could confirm the DPW garage, but that's something that we'll have to figure out internally. I would really hate to lose the recreation shed, but perhaps that's also something that we need to have a discussion tomorrow, see if that needs to be budgeted in. In addition, I would assume if it needed to be, it would be an additional shed added next to the ones that we have placed for the town at Town Barn. But
And
I know
who-
that we're fighting for space in DPW garage, so I don't want to confidently say that when it has not been
Who
discussed.
assumes the responsibility of making sure that it does get picked up and put away? And so that it doesn't get ruined in freezing cold weather?
Yeah. So that's in coordination with DPW. So they maintain recreation's properties that we oversee. So it is an added task.
And Robin, you have that budgeted in for the additional workload to the DPW?
We have it probably at this point for this particular project, but I think as we move into next year's budget, we'll have to look at that certainly.
It ties into some of the potential increases that will come from our soil and field investigation in the future as well. I'm sure it's going to help or add into Heather's upcoming labor requests when they're ready for it, whether that's next budget season or not. But the same way that DPW will have to come and mow the lawn, or if something's needs to be repaired, that's our point of contact.
One of the challenges is we look to take care of some of the recreation areas that we've been sort of behind on, is going to be just that question, because the maintenance of these facilities, whether it's fields or this type of stuff, is going to have an impact. And part of it is what manpower does Heather have to help provide, and then there's also going to be the cost. So for every one of these recreation projects, and we do have some that we really need to look at doing, that's just an ancillary cost that's going to have to go into the budget as part of the project.
So my question was, you stated earlier, this is the same or similar to the material at Burgess?
Yes, it's through the same company as well. Even their recent upgrades, actually, they had reached out to see who had done the recreation to begin with. So it's all been the same representative, the same company, same material.
That stuff has been in place for quite a while, and it's in very good shape as of this morning. It's in very good shape, I can
Yes.
attest to that. So I went by and took a look to see it Burgess. It's beautiful.
It's maintained very well.
It gives, and if you were to roll a wheelchair on it, it would sustain it without it sinking in. And most of the other materials that you could use in this area, that wouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
It would be very hard to wheel it yourself or push it. So I believe this is, based on what I've looked at and studied on this, this is the right choice.
Because when you get finished, you'll have enough parking, because you want to you want to promote it, and, because when I use that now to put my kayak in there, very limited today, very, very limited. So when you get done with this, there'll be like enough spaces and to accommodate people and additional, people that want to use it, and getting in and out traffic-wise, and, because very narrow road getting in and out of there too.
This phase of this project does not add in parking beyond the 2 handicap spots. What we already have completed from the previous project is the design for the parking lot that we're hoping to eventually put into the skate park. That tied into the roadway and the sidewalks. It turned into a multi-million-dollar project very quick. So this was our best way to fix as condensed of a project as we could. It's certainly the recreation's goal in the next several years to add in that parking and formalize it. In connection with the police department, we do allow people to park up where the skate park has been abandoned. Previously, it wasn't, but that way to get some road traffic off. But we were not able to. There are so many things to be figured out, and it got so expensive because you would want to add sidewalks appropriate for a recreation area, the roadway expansion. But for us, we really needed to make sure that this was a reasonable cost to go forward in order to keep hosting this facility. So it's our best approach for now, but we certainly have, the plans are designed for the future parking lot, and then it's when the town is ready to take on formalizing the road.
That's not an issue for parking with the summer program, the way I understand it, is it?
Yes and no.
In that period.
During that period, it is very tricky because it's also 100 to 200 parents coming for drop-off around the same time. We have a good system in place, but especially from a safety side, I would always want to see it improved.
Yeah.
One of our, I'm trying to think of the best way to answer it. It's also hard outside of the summer program as well. The athletic courts are highly used. Especially pickleball has really taken, it's wonderful, but it's gone to a level we never expected. And they're great. They know they need to be out of there by 7:30 just because we do not have enough room for pickleball to come in. So there's still a significant need to upgrade the site as a whole. But again, it got so cost expensive, so fast. And then the town as a whole, I worked with DPW a lot on these roadway discussions. We'll have to figure out the best way to approach that.
I had one more question, and I don't want to get ahead of things, but my question is this. If this gets approved at the special town meeting and the funds get approved, can this be done in time for this summer's rec session
I
in June?
would like to be prepared to open it up for bid as soon as possible, construction this spring, and it would really need to be completed before the summer program started.
But it's possible.
Absolutely, that's the goal.
Okay.
Yeah, the full intent.
So I'm just curious, out of the preservation
That was why
fund,
we really wanted to, that was why we really wanted to push forward on a special on this and do this in this timeframe and not wait until June.
preservation fund versus free cash versus reserves, why preservation fund? We're preserving.
I was thinking that's more of a Robin question, why that source of funding?
Why preservation fund, Robin?
Yes.
Or a combination of any
CPC is
one?
designed, so CPC is designed for recreational purposes as well. Community preservation, some of it is historic preservation, some of it is housing, and some of it can be used for recreation. And there has been money that has been set aside as it was collected for recreational purposes. So this is a good resource for this, and it's actually a really good use of CPC funds. But because it is CPC funds, that's why we have to be careful. There was concern about could you do sidewalks, how much could you expand. So certain aspects of it have to fall within the state guidelines. This is thoroughly vetted. It does fall within those guidelines of CPC usage. So there'd be no reason to use another resource when we have this source available, and we collect this money from people for these types of purposes.
And just so you know, the balance right there is $1,364,373.
In that category.
In that category.
In that category, wow.
So,
Why don't you get more?
I tried. That was our first request.
next year.
We'll be back.
Any further questions, comments? I have a motion. Approve as written.
A second.
Okay. Hang on a second.
We're easy, huh?
there's
We'll
plenty
happily
of.
bring forward
Wait.
ADA requests.
Well, no,
That
it's.
really helps in that
Well, you
plan.
got a lot of documentation, so
Yeah.
that really helps.
Absolutely.
We get a chance to digest.
Yep.
All right, I've got a first and a second to approve the articles written. No more comments, or seeing no more comments. All those in favor? I thought you were gonna come out from under the table this time. 6-0. And I believe that's the only article, right?
Yes.
So thank you all for coming out, though,
Thank you.
and supporting
Thank
it,
you.
and ready to provide us with information.
Thank you very much.
Nice job.
This is certainly a relief. One more meeting to get through.
Okay, so working our way back to the beginning. Article 48, unpaid bills from previous year. I just got a little more information, from what it was. It's, basically for hauling of recyclables from the recycling center for $1,202. So it's, got submitted late and needs to be paid for.
I'll make the motion.
All right. Do I have a second? Lee? Okay. So that's JW and LD. Any other questions? All those in favor? And that's 6-0. All right, so let me just change all this
Here's the big one.
yellow to white. Okay. I should have said, I shouldn't have said it approve as written. Do you mind if I just adjust it solely? It should have been the motion that's written here. I know all of us have seen it, but no one's actually heard it, so I'm just going to read it for the record. That the town vote to transfer the sum of $1,202.95/$100, so 95 cents, from free cash for the purpose of paying unpaid bills for the prior fiscal year. And we voted that 6-0. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because we see it, but that's not what we said.
Yeah.
All right, so 48, 49, 50 is free cash transfer from an ineligible grant fund expenditure. So we thought it was going to come from a grant fund. The grant looked at what we submitted for expenses and said, no, this isn't eligible, so we have to pay this $43.28 out of our pocket. So. I guess it's the 9/11 training grant, but if you want to provide some more details as to what that is, Robin, we can get a little, oh, you don't need it? You're okay?
Just curious if
Maybe they submitted for lunch expenses and that wasn't allowed.
Couple Big Macs.
Okay, so for Article 50,
Yeah, I didn't even ask. I don't think I even wanted to ask.
It already cost us more.
No, I have a,
oh, Larry has a question? Go ahead.
well, comment. In the private sector, undoubtedly, $43 and change would be paid out of a CEO discretionary fund. They cannot be done in the public sector. And another point to keep in mind for orientation of what this committee does.
Okay.
And I watched the Board of Selectmen meeting when this came up, and someone made a recommendation that we take it out of the person's pay, but that didn't fly. Is that correct, Robin? I heard it.
Yeah, there was a running joke that we
Yeah,
figured
that
it
was
would
a joke.
probably take less tax hours if one of us just paid the $50.
They were just kidding. They were just kidding.
All right, so any other questions on Article 50? Do I have a motion to approve it as written? Larry? Are you seconding this
second
time? Okay. And Jim is the second?
I follow Larry's lead.
There you go. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? And I can see this time, 6-0. Approved there. Free cash transfers, this is the, replenishing of our reserve fund. That's part of the line item budget. As you know, at the beginning of the fiscal year, we had $184,000 put into that fund. But with the DPW gas tank situation, we expended $85,700 roughly. So we only have about $98,000, but we still have quite a chunk of the fiscal year to go. So this is just giving us a little replenishment back into that fund so that if some unforeseen situation arises, we can cover it. So.
Yeah, and really, what drove this was the tank, the unexpected issue with the fuel tank, and that's just that's critical importance. So it was used for exactly what it's supposed to be used for, an emergency.
All right. Larry, are you willing to?
I'll make the motion this time, then he can.
Mike is seconded, okay.
Humbly second.
JW and LM. All right, any other questions or comments? All those in favor? All right, 6-0. Okay, so let me just take, like I said, get this, so I can send this out to everybody tomorrow, because I've got people waiting for it. 6-0. All right, we did the sewer reserve fund transfer, we did Article 53, we did Article 54. It moves to Article 55, and I guess, I mean, in the yellow, you can see where so I'm going to make the motion because this was just intended to be my notes until I had a meeting with Barbara this afternoon, and we started fine-tuning some of the other language. So basically, my motion would be here to amend the article by striking the words "purchase or eminent domain" and otherwise approve the article as written. And you can see some of the rationale I kind of wrote in there for me is basically the way it's written, to acquire by gift, purchase, or eminent domain, or even to borrow, we're giving the Conservation Commission a blank check. And the Conservation Commission, historically has had a real impetus to acquire open space. I guess I'm going to take it from my opinion at almost any cost. They're very big on having the town having a lot of open space. And the only thing, I would not want to give them any authority that they could actually expend money, borrow money, or start eminent domain operations. The only thing I'd like to see them is to get it by gift. And I want to make sure that's clear.
So to make, to ask, with respect to a possible distinction, the proposal itself, I take it, is something that you're not opposed to.
No.
It is merely the breadth of the
The way they
conservation's.
can obtain it.
Exactly, yes, okay,
That's my concern.
thank you.
So basically, it would,
If I could jump in on that,
yeah. Go ahead, please.
yes, that makes perfect sense. That was just language that goes in there sort of pro forma when legal drafted it. These originally weren't even going to come on the warrant, except that one of these easements isn't totally passive. A tiny portion of it is for parking, which means that technically it has to go on a town meeting warrant. These are being transferred to us for free. We have letters from the owners willing to give us these easements. So we're not worried about taking away language of eminent domain or anything like that, because it's not going to go that way.
I'm not saying these people are, but if you were someone of a different type of ilk, and you saw this article on there, what's to prevent you from going to Conservation Commission? I thought I was going to give it to you for free, but I want $20,000. And now we gave them a blank check.
Right, yeah, so
That's where I
yeah.
wanted to
No,
start.
I'm fine with that. That's, yeah, absolutely.
It really is.
Okay, so then, I don't think anyone seconded my motion. We had all that discussion.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Thank you. Who was that? That was Jim, so it's my motion and Jim seconded. And I sent you there too, so you have the verbiage, yeah, okay. All right then, any other questions or comments related to this article? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? All right, it's voted 6-0.
Boy, what an agreeable group.
Is the explanation in the text box, is you acceptable? Because I gotta kind of get. I'm just gonna leave that in there. Okay. That's excellent. And I thought we were gonna be a lot later. Well, so going back, we now have 15-minute consider. Excuse me, so the first one on the agenda is April 1st.
That's the 12/21 email, Kevin.
It's from Mike.
Yeah, like 12/21. Just took a minute to find it.
make a motion.
Second.
AW and LM approve as written. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Abstaining? There you go. 6-0 to 1, 5-0 to 1. All right, April 20th, 2023.
I have a couple of comments.
Go for it.
Okay, on page 3, the first line, it says, JT said, and so forth. Well, there is no JT. There's no JT, so that'll either be JW or KT, because there's no JT, the initials above of all the people there. So that's just a typo, so it's either JW or KT. I don't imagine it matters who.
Okay, I will check to see who,
Okay.
and I will correct that.
And also, on page 6, where it says Veterans Budget, in the Veterans Budget section, it says, where it says second, it says KW, I think it should be JW, because there is no KW. Okay? And that's it, that's all I found.
Okay, anybody else? All right, so then can I get a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Larry and Jim. And let me just go back to the top and see who was here.
Got a vote?
Yeah, I'm going to, I'm just, the only person, obviously, was Sean, he wasn't here yet. Okay, so all those in favor? Opposed and abstaining? 5-0 to 1. Okay, next on the agenda item is April 27th, 2023.
I have a couple.
Go for it.
On page 6, under unclassified, it uses, instead of LM, it says Larry. So we decided we'd go with initials, so. And then on page 7, under central purchasing, there isn't a second. There's a motion made, but there's no one listed as second. And if it's consistent with what went before and what followed, the second would have been LM, because you,
Check that, thank you.
What was the article, what was the number?
on page 7, central purchasing.
So it was LM, I have it on my notebook, it was
Okay.
LM.
And then Article 1 and Article 7 both say second by JT, and we don't have a JT. We don't have a JT. So
let me
it's
go
either
back.
KT or JW, I think. Or it could be, no, it has to be
That was,
Joe Freitas. It could be JF, it could be Joe Freitas.
that was April 23rd, right?
April 20th, 27th.
I'm just gonna go, I got so many minutes here.
Which article is this?
420, this is it.
Article 1
Article 1.
for a second. And I don't have my stuff with me.
Article 1 is MH and JW.
So the JT should be JW. And what about Article 7?
Article 7?
Yeah.
16? I don't, oh, this must be 7 then, that's PAC?
I don't know, I just have Article 7 for a second.
I have KNMH there. So Kathy Neal, Mike Hager.
Okay, it says second, it says JT. Maybe it should say Mike Hager, Article 7.
That's why I just wanted to make sure that I'm in the right article. Article 17. No, that's public access, so that is 17. I don't have an Article 7 for that day. It's 5, 6, 8.
Go back to my notes in the video,
Okay.
so
Okay.
I can,
7.
On page 7, so, no, that's not an article. Let me go back, I'll look right now. 427, all right. 427. Where the hell is 427? I'm in the wrong place. Gotta go back here.
All right.
Here we go, wait a minute, 427, I'll find it. 427, Article 7.
But this is
I don't see it.
uniformed, I mean,
Says for Article 1. All articles.
Sound like the right ones to
I
say
could be
that.
mistaken. Article 1, it says JT. Article 16. It's Article 16, I'm sorry.
All right, so 16 I have. All right, let me go back to that.
Mike Hager made the motion. JT seconded Article 16.
So I have MH and JW.
Okay, so not JT, it should be JW. Okay. Okay.
No, that's good.
It's kind of picky, but
No, well, you want to be, so, well, I was going to get to a new business, but I think this is one of the ones going to the AG's office, so we want to make sure it's right.
yeah,
Okay.
that's all I got.
Any other questions or comments? So I'll make a motion to approve these minutes as amended. Larry and Jim?
Yeah.
No one else has comments? All right, so all those in favor? Opposed and abstaining, 5-0 to 1. All right. So the next one, I just want to go by the agenda so we don't, is May 18th, 2023.
Okay, so I have a comment. It says that I was absent, but I know I was there for part of the meeting, because if you go through the notes, for the first half of the meeting, until Charlie Blanchard showed up, all the votes were 8-0, and when Charlie showed up, they were 9-0. And I said, well, that was me, I arrived late. So I went back and watched the video, and I arrived at 7:54. Okay?
I had you at 7:53.
Okay, well, I watched the video, and there's a clock on the video. So,
Yeah.
okay, but anyway, so that's what it was, so, because otherwise, the votes wouldn't have been right.
Yeah.
So votes beginning with Article 7, that's what it was. Beginning with Article 7, there were 9 votes, and prior to that, there were 8 votes, and that was kind of the tip-off.
Okay.
I read the stuff. The Irish.
Okay, so that's May 18th. Any other questions or comments related to the May 18th minutes? So I'll take a motion to amend, and so we'll go with Larry and Jim for
They-
amended.
They acquitted themselves well, Larry. Last Friday,
All right, so all those in favor? Opposed and abstaining, 5-0 to 1. So now we move to October 26, 2023, which is the last time we gathered together.
and I found nothing to change. So I'll make a motion that we approve those minutes as accepted.
Second.
All right, JW and LM. Approve it as written. And, let's see, Sean counts in this one. Okay, all those in favor? 6-0. Great. Okay, so moving along. Let's go back. All right, so old business? I don't know whether to put this under old business or new business. You know, we had the open meeting law violation complaint. You know, in the last meeting, we hadn't heard anything forever and ever and ever. And we've actually got a request from the Attorney General's office through our town council to deliver a series of meeting minutes to them. So once we have, well, now that we've had these all voted and once they're amended, Mike will bring them up as clerk. We'll get them submitted to our town clerk and then organized and sent back to the Attorney General's office. What they want it for, I have no idea. But that request was made. And so I figured I'd let everybody know.
I think I remember correctly that in the process, the complainant could appeal a decision of the Attorney General's office by a date last August. Do we know if that date was met through appeal or if the complainant did not appeal?
Robin, do you have any idea?
I don't know. All I know is that it's still got to be ongoing because they requested those minutes last week from us, or earlier this week, actually. So I don't know what the status is. This is the first I have heard of it, on any of it, in months.
I think we could presume that if an appeal had been made, we would have gotten a copy of it, and I don't think we did.
Well, it,
I certainly did not, so.
I'll just read you the letter from or the email really from our town that went to Robin and then subsequently came to me. Basically, as an update to this open meeting law complaint matter, the Division of Open Government recently requested the below meeting minutes for its review of the open meeting law complaint filed by Charlie Blanchard. Specifically, the division is seeking the following financial committee meeting minutes: April 6th, 13th, 18th, 20th, 27th, as well as May 4th, May 11th, and May 8th. So they're looking for, what's that, 8 sets of minutes. So, well, I know we were in the business, Jim was nice enough to go through for Mike and myself. He itemized what minutes we had already acted on, what needed to be acted on, and what was outstanding with the minutes we had tonight. So basically, everything else should be filed, and after tonight's action, we should be ready to turn them over. And then the only other thing is that as we mentioned earlier, I'll send out an email looking for some dates in February for when we can try and, attend a tour of the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant. And I know the date was, like an early Saturday morning would probably best fit for most people. So they were originally going to try to do January 27th, except there's one date that didn't work for me. So we're going to try some dates in February, but I'll send out a thing, and if you can reply back with 2 or 3 dates that'll work, I can say, we can get 8 people here, 4 people there, whatever. And hey, Robin, can I ask one question? I would think I would need to post that, right? Even though we're not going to take any action, we would be enough to make a quorum of our body if all of us attended.
Yeah, so I believe you can tour, you just can't discuss.
All right, well, maybe we'll just post it to be
I'll
safe.
confirm, you know what, why don't we be safe, and I will get a legal opinion, just so we don't have any issues.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, thank you.
Can you also ask if we would need
Yeah.
minutes of that?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Required to go and do minutes, or somebody required?
Well, I don't know if it would be, what we're asking is, would the clerk have to come to record minutes? I don't know if we're going to take any real action. It's just to cover ourselves, because we would be a quorum in an official body acting in that capacity. So,
I would think that most of the
It is
conversation are
borderline,
questions for
because
Heather.
you might ask questions, and so let me just get a legal opinion.
okay,
Worst case, it has to be done in 2 groups.
all right, that's fair. Okay. All right, anybody
And
else?
Kevin?
Yes,
Yeah, Kevin?
yeah.
So just to confirm though, we would be looking at doing it on a Saturday in February, because I did confirm with Heather that there are things that they would want to show you that are outside that you wouldn't be able to see in the evening, okay?
Oh, that's good to know, thank you. So I will make sure I note Saturdays in February, in early AM type of thing, 8, 9 AM.
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm gonna see what date Shane is available on a Saturday. I will send you those dates and then you can coordinate from there, okay?
Yep, no, that works, okay. Does anyone else have any new business?
Old business.
Oh, I moved into new business without even knowing it, sorry. I should have just called that section business. Other business.
I got a question, and I saw this letter from Robin to the Board of Selectmen. How did about free cash numbers, how did that come about?
So that basically,
Go ahead. I know that there was a request made from the Board of Selectmen to Barbara to give them information about what type of feedback there was in the budget. I want to say feedback, but like clawback, or I forget what the actual word we used. But the unexpended things from all the department budgets, what we would have gotten in unexpected revenue, and just document all that stuff into the free cash balance. And then Robin commented on that same memo that Barbara put together. But this would be another topic for the meeting we're going to have that was promised in the fall last year, but we haven't quite had yet, where, in addition to discussing like what the budget process is, how we want to adjust free cash fiscal policies, and also now how we are going to make sure we set those same fiscal policies so that we maintain a high enough level for the sewer and water reserve funds. Because that water, I mean, years ago when I first got here, when Greg was the DPW director, he was adamant that we should never fall below $1 million in either one of those reserve funds. And now we're at $245,000. And, I know politically it's unpopular and they've tried to keep rates low by spending money out of that fund. But, it's time to pay the piper. So I don't know what your plans are, but it would be great to share how we're going to build that balance back up. I'm sure we're not going to do it in 1 year, but it'd be nice to have a 5 to 10 year plan about how we're going to build it up. So I look forward to that meeting and those topics. We're still waiting.
A long time, long wait.
Yeah, I know.
Because another question for the meeting, as we get into it, we're always referencing the credit agencies, and the questions brought up is, do we have a relationship with them? Do we have a subscription to the agencies' newsletters or any kind of direction we can get? Because it always comes up that if we do this, it may affect our credit rating. Very important subject, but it'd be nice to let the credit agency of some sort let us know where more of the parameters are, so we can manage the business, rather than say it may affect our credit rating, could affect it. There's a big gap there, so that's something I think would behoove us to be having some input from the actual people that do this, to give us direction to help us out.
Well, I mean, we can get you their newsletters. Their standards are up publicly. What they look at, if you go to the Massachusetts.gov site, S&P and Moody's are both referenced with what impacts credit ratings. The reason it's a could is that there are so many parameters beyond just your free cash numbers, your debt ratio, your budget, your unfunded liabilities, the condition of your community, deterioration of your community. So the reason it's sort of a should and not a could, or a could and not a will or a shall, is because it's one of a whole host of factors that go into that. But I'm happy to give you some links and some documentation and things you could read up on a little bit, just to understand that a little bit better.
I read up on it. I'm up to
date.
date on it. I understand it. But if you go from the percent we are right today versus where we were, my first question would be, well, when we were at 4 or 5%, what was our credit rating? Now we're at 16. What's our credit rating? Did it change?
Yes, it did.
For the positive?
Yes. And I'm trying to remember when that happened. Because this has been a 30-year process. This didn't happen starting in 2010.
No, I've got to the litany of, yeah.
When I started on the finance committee back in 1996, we did not have a lot of free cash.
Yeah.
And we tried to figure out ways to work so we could be in the position we're in now. And we can weather a lot of storms this way. We weathered the tornado without having to have anyone suffer anything. So this has been a culmination of a lot of years of work by a lot of people.
Oh, no, it's a good position. The question is, when's enough enough? That's the question.
Well, there's an adjunct question to that. You'll notice that it is the selectman's job to produce a budget working with the department heads, finance director, and the town administrator that is as low as possible. That is very appealing, not a bad thing at all. Then we have, as we did tonight, a parade of department heads needing more money because the budget presented was as low as it was.
Right.
We plant a seed, and then we gotta harvest it. So we either plan for it and pay, or we don't plan for it and we pay. And it turns out just like deferred maintenance. Oh, we can't do it now. Let's wait a year. and in that year, you add another 0 on the right. That's a factor that is unavoidable, but can be dealt with by having a hefty free cash total. There's your answer.
Yeah. We also get.
You don't gotta like it,
No,
but
no.
there it is.
No, but we have reserves for that too, for unexpected expenses. There's reserves,
Yeah, like
right?
The ambulance goes right off the road and is totaled,
Yep,
We've been there.
not planned for.
right,
Yes, it was. It can be paid. We got the money.
yeah.
See how it works.
But this is part of that whole discussion, and Robin, you might want to consider too, I'd love to hear, I was going to say, you know, the sewer commissioners and the water commissioners talk about how they're going to go about the plan of replenishing those sewer fund balances too. So at that meeting, it might be good not to have it as the budget kickoff meeting, but to have it separate so we can talk about these things, how we see the fiscal policies and free cash expenditures and the water and sewer fund balances versus, you know, what they see. And what you expect. I mean, you have to live with the money we give you to work with. So it'd be nice to know what your expectations are too.
Yeah, and if we want to change policies, right now it says 4 to 7% for free
Well, yeah,
cash.
but
If
it
you want
says
to change it,
maintain
change
at
it.
4 to 7%.
Yeah.
Maintain me, in my mind, you're looking at, that's the base, not the maximum. It's where you want to stop at.
Right, but it doesn't say that in there, it just says we make 4 to 7%.
Yeah.
It doesn't say
Well,
minimum, it doesn't say
in
it
the other
may, it may
years-
not. It says what it says,
It says maintain.
yeah, 4 to 7%.
Maintain
And you
some,
have
at
to
least.
decide on, you know, and again, like,
Yeah, enough said. At the meeting we should have, then that's something we can agree upon and make the changes if it makes sense and give you the latitude to manage within the guidelines, yeah.
We don't give latitude, the selectmen do. She doesn't work for us. Nobody works for us.
Okay.
You can't say give anybody anything.
Well,
Well,
we do offer.
follow the guidelines, put it that way. Does that make it better?
Well, one's right and one's wrong.
I don't know, whatever the guidelines is. If I was running the town and they gave me the guidelines, I would
you're
operate
not.
within the no, I said if. If I give you the guidelines, say this is the percent, then it's the percent. You can say, I don't agree with it, I think it should be 10, fine, then change the policy.
But we can have
That's
this
all.
discussion. I mean, we should have an opinion in this setup. Because we do have an opinion, and we have a much longer institutional memory.
Yeah. Between us, it's about 50 years.
So anyways, and we'll wait for Robin to set that up. Any other new business? Any public access? No, C is Robin, so we're good. So good, we're on to adjournment. Anyone want to make the motion to adjourn? That's usually Lee's thing, but I was waiting, so Larry makes the motion to adjourn, Lee's seconding. There you go. Okay, and it is 8:12.